My name is Vivian Sinclair. I'm 35. And if you read the papers, you probably think I grew up in gold, marble floors, Beacon Hill parties, and a last name that opened more doors than I ever could on my own. And you'd be half right. My sister, Scarlett, inherited the family legacy, Ivy League degrees, a face that sells power, and parents who called her the future. I was the one who asked too many questions, dropped out of Dartmouth, and disappeared into tech startups while they whispered about wasted potential. I've spent most of my life being reminded I don't belong at the table I was born into. But nothing, not the condescension, not the exile, cut deeper than the day they used my own name to steal everything I built. They said I was useless, so I stayed quiet and sold my silence for $320 million. The sky over Beacon Hill was low and bruised, like it had taken a hit no one saw coming. I stepped out of the black cab, heels clicking on the wet brick as thunder rolled over Boston. The Sinclair estate towered ahead, warm lights in every window, a lie in every bulb. Dinner. That's what the invitation said. Family dinner, my mother had texted. No tone, no apology, just a summons dressed in civility. I knew better. The door opened before I could knock. Scarlett, perfect posture, wine already in hand. You're late, she smiled without blinking. I'm here, I said. You said 7. She stepped aside, letting me in without another word. My coat was taken before I could register the face of the staff member. New, or planted. The dining room smelled like bergamot, veal, and something metallic. Elias Sinclair, my father, stood at the head of the table, flanked by our family lawyer and 2 men in charcoal suits who didn't belong. Not friends, not colleagues, witnesses. You look tired, he said. I run 4 companies. You ran, he corrected. Until yesterday. Scarlett sat, legs crossed, lips curling. Let's not be dramatic. I'm not, I replied. You are. Elias gestured. One of the suits opened a folio, laying out documents like weapons. A trust dissolution, restructuring of Sinclair Global, and an NDA. I blinked. Where's my attorney? He resigned. My mother's voice floated in, too calm. She entered last, like a queen delaying her entrance. Said you were unreachable. I was in Seoul, I snapped. Securing a deal. Without board authorization, Elias said. Using Sinclair name, funds, and contacts. I built that infrastructure. You were given access. That's not the same. I stared at the documents. My name. My signature. But I hadn't touched a pen in weeks. You forged this. Scarlett exhaled like she was bored. Please. You're lucky we didn't press charges. You can't. It's done, Elias interrupted. You're out. Sinclair Global is no longer your concern. My jaw clenched. You don't have legal ground. We do now, he said. We voted. Unanimously. You forfeited your rights by acting against company policy. A pause. He leaned in. If you don't leave voluntarily, we'll file criminal misappropriation. Then you'll really know what exile feels like. I didn't remember leaving the room. My hands were shaking. I hit the front steps as the rain came down harder, soaking through my blouse, hair clinging to my face. Scarlett stood at the doorway, wine untouched now. You should be grateful, she called out. This is still more than you ever deserved. I turned. Careful, I said. Some storms don't wash clean. A black SUV pulled up fast, no headlights. Window down. Just a sliver. You need to get off their radar, a voice said. Masculine. Masked. They're not just cutting you out. They're setting you up. I stepped closer. Who are you? But the SUV was already pulling away. Tires sliced through puddles. Rain swallowed the silence. Inside my coat pocket, something buzzed. A burner phone I never activated. One message on screen. Unknown. Check your bank accounts. Now. I ran back to the cab, breath fogging up the windows. Open my finance dashboard. Access denied. Account disabled. Error 403. Clicked to the next. Frozen. Another. Vanished. The last one showed a withdrawal. $320 million. Transferred. Out. Under my name. Executed 48 hours ago. From a server in Boston. I wasn't just erased. I was detonated. They didn't just throw me out. They erased me. I didn't sleep. I didn't blink. By 4:06 a.m., I was still in the same soaked blouse, sitting cross-legged on the hardwood floor of my penthouse, lights off, screen blue. 6 monitors. 5 frozen accounts. For error messages. 3 hours since they deleted me. Rain tapped the glass like static. Far below, the city moved on, unaware someone had just been wiped out from her own life. I refreshed again. Account access denied. Next tab. Denied. Another. Gone. The last one flashed. Transfer confirmed. $320 million US. Executed by VS. Timestamp. 2 days ago. I wasn't hacked. I was rewritten. They didn't just move the money. They moved me out of existence. A low ping echoed. I turned. Motion alert. Main door. No sound. Just a flash on screen. Unrecognized presence. Door log 3:17 a.m. I bolted upright. Grabbed the taser from the drawer. Quiet steps. Breath shallow. Hallway empty. Door sealed. Then. A knock. Once. Twice. 3 soft taps like a code. I open the peephole. Blonde. Wet hair. Trench coat. Green eyes wide, impatient. Mara. She lifted a phone. Flashlight on. Screen read. Shut off all audio. Now. I opened the door. She swept in. Tossed her coat. Started scanning the ceiling corners like she'd done this before. They bugged your place, she said. You shouldn't have stayed here. How did you? Check your emails. The ones that bounced. I opened the inbox. She pointed. Look closer. It's not just the messages that failed. The routing was hijacked. I paused. They rerouted my traffic through a dead gateway. She nodded. Dead doesn't mean empty. It means mirrored. My stomach dropped. They've been watching everything. And feeding it back to whoever forged your signature. I moved to the mirror near the liquor cabinet. Wrote something with my fingertip on the fogged glass. Why? Mara looked at me through the reflection. Because you were useful. Until you weren't. Cut scene. We sat at the kitchen counter. The city still dark. Coffee untouched. Mara pulled a hard drive from her bag. Found a shadow clone of your transaction logs. Not in your server. In Sinclair Global's. I narrowed my eyes. Impossible. I scrubbed my firewall after Korea. They logged in as you, she said, with biometric override. I froze. That requires internal authorization. She gave me a look. You know who had that? Scarlett. Mara connected the drive to my backup tower. Lines of code scrolled across the screen. Fast, red, pulsing like a heartbeat. Here's the twist, she whispered. This wasn't just a transfer. The screen flashed again. Authorization chain. VS board approval. Elias Sinclair. My blood ran cold. They built a backdoor months ago, Mara said. Your father's signature gave them legal cover. The screen jumped again. Fund redirect. Royce Equities. Sovereign Investments. Cosm Trust. 3 shell firms. Offshore. They turned you into a financial mule, Mara said. Moved the $320 million through you to make it clean. They turned me into the fall guy. She nodded. And now they're deleting the trail. Ping. One final message popped up. An image. A security feed. Low res. Time-stamped 12 hours ago. Scarlett. At a parking garage. Entering a black Mercedes. Passenger side door opens. Elias. I leaned in. A third figure exited the vehicle. Not Royce. Not a board member. It was a man I hadn't seen in 7 years. Dante. The man who tried to buy my first company and threatened to destroy it when I refused. Mara exhaled. They're not reacting to you. They've been planning this. I said nothing. Just stared. My empire wasn't collateral. It was the front. They didn't react to me. I was the bait. 3:43 a.m. The city below was still. From the balcony, Boston looked like a snow globe trapped under dirty glass. Cold. Suspended. Distant. I stood barefoot. Wind clawed at my legs. The USB drive in my hand felt heavier than the gun under my robe. Mara had passed out on the couch. Her boots still wet from the storm. A half-eaten protein bar sat beside her. I hadn't touched mine. Hunger felt irrelevant. Inside the flash drive, a chain of transactions. Burner accounts. Coded ledger trails. $320 million dissected across 7 jurisdictions. But that wasn't the worst part. The names attached. Royce Equities. Sovereign Lux. Sinclair Holdings. All roads led back to me. And I'd never touched a single form. Another file opened. Encrypted video. No timestamp. No metadata. It started black. Then a voice. You know what power really is, Vivian. The screen flickered. A man's silhouette. It's making your enemies say thank you as you bury them. I stepped back. My father's voice answered off-screen. She won't say thank you. She'll disappear. Cut scene. I met Dante Royce once. 7 years ago. He showed up at a pitch meeting with no slides, no tie, no handshake. Just a half grin and a term sheet designed to bleed us dry. I said no. He said I'd regret it. His company tanked 6 months later, or so I thought. Now he was back. And apparently, running my inheritance. Mara stirred. Groaned. Did you decrypt the audio? I don't need to. I know who's behind it. I tossed her the drive. They weren't covering a transfer, I said. They were building an alibi. Mara leaned forward, hair matted. You think they planned the leak? I nodded. They wanted the money trail to come back to me. So when everything blows up, I take the fall. She rubbed her eyes. Dante's dangerous. He doesn't just steal. He buries. I know. She stared at me. Then why are we still in Boston? Cut scene. By 6 a.m., I was wearing a wig and scarf, sitting in the back of a rideshare with no plates, headed for the South End. Destination, a gala. Invitation, fake. Name on the badge, Valerie Black. Strategic finance, Cosm Trust. The ballroom was low-lit and tense. Too many smiles. Too many secrets. I moved past the champagne table, past 2 senators, past a Bloomberg reporter whispering in Russian. And then I saw him. Dante Royce. Same half grin. Same air of decay, masked in cologne and silk. He was talking to Scarlett. My breath caught. Her hand on his arm. Her laugh, familiar but not hers. I moved closer. Close enough to hear one line. You didn't have to give her all of it, he said. Scarlett replied, voice tight. You said it was the only way she'd shut up. I dropped the phone in her purse. Mic hot. Camera on. Stepped away. Back to the elevator. Hands shaking. Pulse in my throat. Mara's voice crackled in my earpiece. Get out now. Someone tagged your entrance. They're scanning exits. Cut scene. I made it 3 blocks before I knew I was being followed. 2 men. Close. Too close. I turned into a stairwell. Elevator lobby. Empty. Dingy. They didn't hesitate. No words. Just fists. I slammed one against the railing. The other grabbed my coat, ripping the fabric. Footsteps. Then gunmetal. I don't know where Mara came from, but her taser hit like God's vengeance. One dropped. The other ran. She grabbed my arm. We have to disappear. Tonight. We made it back to my penthouse by 8:12 a.m. Everything felt off. The lights were still on. The balcony door was open. Was it like this when we left? She asked. No. I stepped forward. The coffee mug I left? Shattered. A chair moved. I reached for the weapon drawer. Empty. A note sat where the gun used to be. For words. She never saw it. I turned to Mara. They were inside before we left. She whispered, they want the flash drive. No, I said. That's not what this is. I walked to the window, lifted the curtain. One building across. A red dot blinked once, then vanished. A sniper? No, a marker. They were watching us the whole time, and they were done hiding. They didn't react to me. I was the bait. We didn't go back inside. Mara killed the lights, cut the breaker, and pulled me down the fire stairs barefoot. Each step echoed like a countdown. Somewhere above us, the penthouse windows glowed. Someone else's problem now. Street level. Wind sharp enough to slice skin. Warehouse, she said. South Boston. Old Maritime Records hub. If they're laundering paper, it'll be there. I didn't ask how she knew. In this game, certainty is a liability. You move on probability. Cut scene. The warehouse smelled like oil and wet iron. Corrugated walls. Flickering fluorescence. A low hum. Servers hidden behind concrete, like a second heartbeat. Mara slid a stolen badge. Red light. Green. We were in. Rows of filing cages stretched into darkness. Pallets stamped with customs codes. Lux. Gay. Vil. Each tag a country, each country a door. Remember, Mara whispered. Don't touch anything without gloves. Chain of custody matters. I nodded. Law still mattered. That's how you won. A door creaked. Footsteps. We froze. A guard passed. Phone pressed to his ear. Yeah, the daughter. No, she doesn't know yet. Stage 3's clean. Stage 3. My throat tightened. We moved fast. Mara pulled a crate labeled Cosm Trust. Inside, hard folders, paper-heavy, old school. She flipped one open. My name. My signature. Again. Authorization to seed capital. Not a theft, an investment. My $320 million wasn't gone. It had been used. I felt the room tilt. They didn't steal from you, Mara said, eyes scanning. They leveraged you. I swallowed. For what? She slid the next document forward. A buyout proposal. Sinclair Global. My family's company. Hostile takeover. Quiet. Clean. Seeded with my money to keep the optics pristine. They used you to eat your own bloodline, Mara said. And if it fails, I take the fall. A soft click. A burner phone buzzed inside the crate. One message. Stage 3 begins. Sinclair's daughter won't make Q4. My breath hitched. They planned to kill me, I said. Mara didn't argue. The lights snapped on. Hands up. 3 men stepped out of the shadows. Black jackets. Novides. Guns low. Casual professionals. Mara shoved me behind a crate. I ran. Metal screamed under my feet. Bullets bit concrete. I ducked into a service tunnel. Breath tearing out of me in ragged bursts. A hand grabbed my ankle. I kicked. Hard. He went down. I didn't stop. We burst through an exit into the rain. Sirens in the distance. Not for us. Never for us. Cut scene. Safe house. Basement. One bare bulb swinging. Mara locked the door. Double-checked. Sat on the floor. They know we're ahead, she said. That means pressure. Good, I said. Pressure makes people sloppy. I stared at the documents, spread between us. Sinclair Global wasn't just my family's pride. It was their shield. Without it, everything collapsed. I need Scarlet, I said. Mara looked up. She's compromised. She's ignorant, I said. Different. I dialed. It rang once. Viv. Scarlett's voice. Tight. Guarded. I need to see you, I said. Alone. A pause. That's not a good idea. Nothing is, I said. But this is necessary. Another pause. Hotel Commonwealth. 30 minutes. Cut scene. Scarlett arrived early. She always did. Control was her religion. She looked tired. Good. I didn't know, she said immediately. About the money. I know, I said. You knew something. Not this. She exhaled. They told me it was a tax maneuver. Temporary. Who told you? She hesitated. Dad, she said. And Royce. The name landed like a punch. They said you'd shut up once you saw the numbers, she continued. That you'd understand. I leaned in. Understand what? That you were a liability, she said softly. Brilliant. Dangerous. Uncontrollable. A waiter passed. We went quiet. Scarlett's hand shook around her cup. You don't disappear people unless they scare you, she whispered. I nodded. Exactly. Her phone buzzed. She glanced down. Went pale. What? I asked. They're asking where I am. Who? She looked at me. Dad. Cut scene. We split at the corner. I didn't follow her. She didn't look back. That night, I watched Sinclair Global's stock tick down. Slowly. Then faster. A message hit my burner. Unknown number. You're running out of time. I typed back. So are you. I shut the phone off. Sometimes the smartest move is becoming invisible. They planned to bury me under the very company I built. Mara kicked the safe house door shut behind us and locked all 5 bolts in silence. I peeled off my coat, soaked in freezing rain. My fingers trembled, not from the cold. Adrenaline never leaves quietly. Scarlett's in, I said, still catching my breath. Mara didn't look up. Too late for that. You saw the feed. She pointed at the laptop. I leaned over. Video surveillance. Grainy black and white. My father pacing. Nolan right behind him. Then shut it down, my father hissed. If the buyout leaks, we lose the board. And Vivian? Nolan asked. She'll leak nothing, Dad said, because she won't be breathing. My lungs stopped moving. Cut scene. Midtown Manhattan. Sinclair Global HQ. The plan was nuclear. We'd filed a whistleblower petition with the SEC. Anonymous, encrypted, trace proof. 42 pages of laundering proof. Illicit transfers. Shareholder fraud. But it needed a trigger. I know someone inside the compliance board, I said. He owes me. Name? Mara asked. I hesitated. Elliot Mathers. Her face darkened. You trust him? No, I said. But he trusts me. 3 hours later. AMC Tower. Level 26. The office was sleek. Dead quiet. Elliot sat behind a glass desk, eyes twitching toward the elevator every 30 seconds. You shouldn't be here, he said, not even looking up. I know. He took the folder, flipped it open, didn't blink. Jesus Christ. It's worse than that, I said. They're about to crash their own company and blame it on me. His jaw clenched. If this goes public, it'll destroy everyone. I stared at him. So don't keep it quiet. He looked at me like I had set fire to the Constitution. Cut scene. We didn't make it to the parking lot. For men in suits, one blocking each exit. Mara's hand was already in her coat. Elliot whispered, Take the freight elevator. Basement level. It's coded. Only employees know. Thank you, I said. No, don't thank me. If this burns me, I'll make sure you feel it. I already do. Basement. Steam pipes hissing. Smell of rot. Mara pried open the maintenance door. We slipped into the service tunnel. A loud bang echoed behind us. Keep moving, she shouted. My legs were jelly. Fear does that. Not the fear of dying, but of being erased. There's a difference between revenge and survival, I gasped. Mara didn't turn back. Only when you have time to choose. Back in Boston by midnight. Rain heavier now, like the sky was trying to wash out the guilt. We met Scarlett in the back of a closed bookstore. She was shaking. I got into Dad's private server, she said, handing me a flash drive. There's something else. I plugged it in. Surveillance files. Dozens of them. Audio. Transcripts. One titled, Q4 Strategy, Control plus Kill. The audio clicked on. Dante's voice. Clear. Cold. She signed over the holding rights. Nolan, she'll notice. Dad, that's the point. She panics. We expose her. SEC swarms in. She crashes. Dante. And when she doesn't cooperate. Dad, you said you had men for that. Then a third voice. Make it look like an overdose. Depression. She's the black sheep. No one will doubt it. I dropped the drive. Scarlett covered her mouth. They were planning the whole thing, she whispered. No, I said. They're still doing it. Cut scene. I spent the next hour building the drop. Digital deadman switch. Once activated, it would send the SEC files, the surveillance, and all names involved to Reuters, the Financial Crimes Unit, the IRS, and Sinclair's Board of Directors. If I didn't log in within 36 hours, the flood would hit every screen from DC to Zurich. I stared at the upload bar. Sometimes survival means becoming a storm, I said. Mara leaned over. And sometimes a storm needs lightning. 1:42 a.m. The rooftop. Scarlett stayed behind. Too exposed. Mara and I watched the Sinclair global skyscraper from a distance. 15 minutes until the board meeting. We weren't waiting for it. We were crashing it. Mara handed me a duffel. Inside, documents, fake IDs, burner phones, and a small handgun. I don't want to shoot him, I said. Mara zipped the bag shut. You probably won't have to. Pause. But if you do, make it count. I looked out at the city, its lights flickering like it could all disappear tomorrow. And maybe it would. The rain turned to sleet. The clock hit 1:55 a.m. And I knew, if I didn't end this by dawn, I wouldn't live to see it. The ballroom shimmered with money. Crystal chandeliers. Dozens of power suits. Laughter hiding malice. Board members clinked glasses, toasting to Sinclair Global's upcoming merger. Cameras rolled. Investors watched live. Everything staged. Mara whispered in my ear, once this starts, it doesn't stop. That's the point, I said. Let it burn. Cut scene. I walked in alone. Red dress. Calm smile. Flash drive in hand. People turned. Some recognized me. Most didn't. The black sheep never gets framed in the family portrait. Until she walks through the fire. I moved toward the podium. Nolan stood up. So did Dante. My father stayed seated, like a general watching bombs fall. Vivian, he said, feigning warmth. You're not on the agenda. I made myself fit. I inserted the drive. The screen behind me flickered. Audio played. Their voices. The recordings. I let them hear every word of their plan. The ballroom froze. Then chaos. Board members stood up, shouting. Phones dialing. Cameras zooming in. The truth doesn't whisper, it detonates. Cut scene. Security moved toward me. Mara stepped in front of them. Badge out. Federal whistleblower protection. She's not leaving with you. They stopped cold. The irony? Every time they called me weak, I listened. Every time they tried to erase me, I stayed silent. But silence isn't weakness. It's the echo before the scream. Within 24 hours, Nolan arrested in a hotel suite in D.C. Dante caught boarding a private jet to Panama. My father vanished. I heard whispers. Interpol. private island off the coast of Greece. But for once I didn't chase ghosts, because I had the truth. And the truth doesn't need a confession, it only needs witnesses. 3 weeks later, I sat on the porch of the cabin I bought in Vermont. Snow fell. Scarlet cooked inside, humming something old. Mara sat across from me, sipping black coffee. We didn't talk much. Survivors rarely do. People think justice is loud, Mara said, but sometimes it's just surviving long enough to be heard. I nodded. There's a strange peace in having nothing left to hide, I said. She smiled. That's because now you own everything. And I did. The board transferred Sinclair's control to the Whistleblower Trust. I sold 80% of the assets. $320 million. Not out of spite, but because power isn't revenge, it's reinvention. They built an empire on secrets. I built a life on exposure. I got letters. Some hateful, some begging. From old friends, past lovers, even distant relatives. Regret is cheap when the camera's off. But healing? That's earned in silence. In nights without sleep. In mornings you choose to get up anyway. One last envelope arrived. No return address. Inside, a photo of me as a child. Taken by my mother. On the back in her handwriting. Even when they didn't see you, I did. Be who they never allowed you to become. I wept. Not because I missed her, but because I finally forgave her. This wasn't the end. Not really. Just the beginning of a story I get to write alone. The black sheep didn't disappear. She became the wolf. And now I hunt in daylight.